Shalom and welcome. This week's Torah portion is entitled Lech, Lecha. It involves our first meeting with Abraham, whose name at this point is Avram. God tells Avram to leave his birthplace, his native country, and his father's house, and go to the land that God will show him. Now, Avram is not really sure about this. He's afraid that people will talk, and that people might say, Avram, he's leaving to go to another country, another place, to bring people to the knowledge of his God. But then he's leaving his old father behind him, here in Haran. Avram talks to God and tells him this. His answer, do not worry about what your neighbors think. They don't have your best interests in heart. Neither does your family, really. Just go, and I will take care of you. So Avram leaves Haran, and he journeys toward Canaan. When he gets there, he sees that the Canaanites have a nice country, and they're industrious. They take care of their crops, and their flocks and their herds. God promises Avram that he will have this land for himself and for his descendants, and his descendants will grow numerous here. He also tells Avram that through him, other people will be blessed, and he will bring blessing to others. So Avram builds an altar to commemorate this promise, and he then travels through the land of Canaan, and he comes to Hebron, and he builds another altar there to signify that he's come into this land to take possession of it. And he travels to the great city of Ai, and he builds another altar there because God has shown him what might happen much, much later when Joshua starts conquering the land of Canaan. And they come to Ai, and there's all kinds of problems, and that generates a certain amount of evil. And Abram hopes that this evil will be somewhat reduced by the presence of this altar. He's also taken by the promise that others will be blessed by him. This means that even sailors that come into contact with him seem to have more profitable voyages. Now one might ask, why did God pick Canaan? What's special about Canaan that he's going to give it to Abram's descendants? In Ginsburg's Legends of the Jews, we find a possible answer. We remember that Noah had 3 children, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham had sons of his own. Among them, he had a son named Canaan. Now, when the flood was over and the land was dry, lots were drawn, and the land was apportioned. And Noah's sons and their descendants were given a portion of the land. Ham was supposed to get a land to the west of perhaps the Jordan River. But he became enamored of the land along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, from Lebanon down to what they called the Egyptian River, and west to the Jordan. Now, his father Ham and his brothers Cush and Mizraim spoke to him, saying, hey, look, this isn't the land you're supposed to get. You're supposed to get the land over there, to the west of this. You're not supposed to get this particular land. This is supposed to go to Shem and his descendants. If you take over this, it's going to be a rebellion, and it's not going to, nothing good can come of this. Canaan, however, liked what he saw, and he liked the land. So he went in spite of the counsel of his father and his brothers, and he went and took this land. His father and brothers told him, you're going to be cursed. This isn't going to end up good for you, no matter what you do. Somewhere down the line, this land is going to be conquered by outsiders, and your descendants are going to be destroyed. Now, this is a nice little story, and it maybe explains why this area was called Canaan. But where's the link to Avram? Well, in last week's Torah portion, right before we start this week, there's a genealogy of Shem's descendants. And it goes down through a number of people and ends up at the end with Terah, Avram's father. And we see that Avram is actually a descendant of Shem. Now, I cannot tell what might have been in God's mind. No one can. But is it just possible that God was making sure that the land that was supposed to belong to Shem and his descendants would end up that way? I don't know. That is up to you to decide. Shalom.